We begin the news with the continuing coverage of the emergency rule in Rivers State, where the Senate has approved President Bola Tinubu's proclamation of a state of emergency in Rivers State following deliberations during a closed-door session. The approval grants the President the authority to enforce emergency measures in the crisis-hit state, while also paving the way for mediation efforts to restore peace. Upon returning from the closed-door session, Senate President Godswill Akpabio announced the Senate's decision to approve President Tinubu's request for a state of emergency in Rivers State. The enforcement of emergency measures, according to the Senate, will be subject to review at any time, but no later than 6 months. Well, also the House of Representatives has approved the declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State, along with the 6-month suspension of Governor Sim Fubara, his deputy, and all elected members of the Assembly, as announced by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. The seal of approval for the President's proclamation came via voice vote during Thursday plenary that was presided over by the Speaker Tajuddin Abbas.
Before I put the question, I want the House to note that today's plenary is being attended by 243 members based on our attendance registers. Just for records, we are more than satisfied the requirement of this particular amendment. So, honorable colleagues, with your kind permission, I put the question. Those in support of this motion should say aye. Those in support should say aye. Those in support should say aye. Those against should say nay. There is have it. Thank you. Leader of the next week. Is done? No, we only vote for adoption of the votes and procedures.
Well, let's still stay on the Rivers crisis. The sole administrator of Rivers State has delivered his inaugural address, laying out the vision for his 6-month term and assuring residents of his desire to lead the state within the ambit of the rule of law. In his address on Thursday, retired Vice Admiral Ibok Ete Ibas also requested the support of the Rivers State people, adding that he meant well in taking up a responsibility as he had done at a time of political tension and instability.
Let me be clear. Under my leadership, civil liberties and fundamental human rights will be respected and protected. The rule of law will remain sacrosanct. However, those who seek to sabotage the social or economic stability of Rivers State and national infrastructure and institutions within the state, or who attempt to disrupt the peace for selfish and destructive ends, will find no tolerance for their actions. There will be no room for lawlessness, no space for violence, and no patience for actions that threaten our collective well-being. We will not act arbitrarily, but neither will we hesitate to enforce the law where necessary. Let no one be in doubt. We will uphold justice and fairness, but we will also ensure that civil order prevails. In the coming days, we will move with deliberate speed to articulate a pragmatic roadmap for the next 6 months to ensure that every government bureaucracy, our objective will be clear: to restore normalcy, to rebuild public trust, and to lay the groundwork for a stronger and more resilient, democratically governed.
In the related development, a coalition of opposition political leaders have hinted at a political merger ahead of 2027 general elections, while strongly opposing the declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State. The political leaders include former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, former Governor of Kaduna State Nasir El-Rufai, former Secretary to the Government of the Federation Babachir Lawal, and some Labour Party leaders. News Central's correspondent Amadine Uyi has more.
It was a reaction to the declaration of a state of emergency by political stakeholders called from the different opposition political parties in the country. Many of them qualified to be regarded as the nation's political elite. Howbeit, from several opposition political parties have described the action by the president as unconstitutional.
This action is not only unlawful, but also a clear subversion of democracy and imposition of autocratic federal control over a duly elected state government.
Former chieftain of the All Progressives Congress and former governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, says previous actions by past governments have not been able to stand the test of the judiciary, thus setting a precedent which runs contrary to the proclamation by the president.
2006, the Supreme Court of Nigeria gave a judgment clearly stating that even though by then Daria had been restored to office, but lashed the Obasanjo administration and said that under no circumstances would the emergency provisions in Section 305 be used to remove any elected official. No legislation or constitutional amendment has changed that, so that is the law. No one, no person or authority can remove an elected official, whether governor, deputy governor, or member of the legislature.
The former vice president of the country, on behalf of those present, demanded an immediate reversal of the pronouncement by President Bola Tinubu.
We call on President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to immediately revoke this unconstitutional proclamation and reinstate the elected governor, deputy governor, and state assembly of Rivers State. We urge the judiciary to act swiftly in striking down this proclamation, as it sets a dangerous precedent that could be used to arbitrarily remove any governor in the future.
The group, also known as the concerned leaders and political stakeholders in the country, also hinted that ahead of the 2027 general elections, they will consolidate their thoughts and opinions so as to serve as a viable opposition against the current APC-led government. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadin Uyi.
Adewale Adebayo, presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party SDP, joined us earlier in the news and aired his views on the situation in Rivers State, as well as the race for 2027 and the possible merger of major parties as hinted by the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. Let's bring you his thoughts.
What we need to know about is the difference between politics, governance, and having an opinion on a subject at a theoretical level. For example, I would imagine that if I were president and I find myself in this kind of situation and I need to declare an emergency, I will consult with the National Assembly first. And I would let them understand what I want to do. So maybe that has taken place and they have been able to be made to understand what the president had in mind when he made that order. So if the president fell into error, as I think he fell into error, in suspending the governor and the assembly, I have not read the security report that he read. I don't have all the facts that he has. I'm not the president. I believe the president will have more security report than I do have. But looking at what we know in the public domain and my consultation with people from Rivers State and members of the Senate and the reps, I found out that they have certain information which they believe, rightly or wrongly, suggests that they needed to get rid of the actors. That is to say, though pipelines were being vandalized and all of that, but the real problem was that the dynamics between the governor and the House of Assembly would only lead to more crises on a daily basis. So they wanted to give both sides a pause, because I spoke to senators today before they cast their vote. I tried to talk to a few of them that I knew to say, don't vote for it, ask the president for more explanation. And after they voted, I spoke to a number of them, those in my party and those outside. The overwhelming conclusion is that they believed that even the governor who is suspended is somehow into it and is relieved that he is being given time out.
Well, for more on this development in Rivers State and a new political coalition, I am now being joined by Chris Wando, a political analyst and publisher. Thank you so much, Chris, for joining me this morning. Let's look at this very, carefully. What would be your reaction, first off, to the approval of the state of emergency in River State by both the Green and Red chambers, particularly in the Green chambers where the issue of quorum generated some tension? What's your thought?
Good morning, my brother, Joe. I hope you are good this morning.
I'm great.
Yes, we need to, first of all, establish certain things. First and foremost is whether the president has the constitutional right to declare a state of emergency in River State. And the answer is yes. That by the provision of Section 305 of the 1999 Constitution, based on certain parameters, the president has the right and obligation constitutionally to be able to declare a state of an emergency in any part of the country, based on reports at his disposal. So we don't know what the reports at his disposal that warranted that. We're talking of security report. We don't know what I can also understand, whether the situation as it were within River State at the point at which the president declared the state of emergency, whether it has gotten to the point to which the Constitution made certain those provisions. So it's left to be seen. So it's established the president has the right to do that. Then the second leg is what we are talking about, the National Assembly. Yes, it was said that if the president declared a state of emergency within in session, within 24 hours, they must approve it. If they are not in session, I think within 48 hours, they have to reconvene, 48 or 72 hours, they have to reconvene and be able to approve, which is what they did yesterday. But going through the roads, what to ask yourself, the approval, as it were, what did the Constitution say about that? Yet, to the best of my knowledge, it is not by voice vote, it is by 2/3 of members of the National Assembly. So, for that of the House of Representatives, where the issue of quorum came up, and then the issue of voice vote was taken, I don't know how right and how constitutional right that was. We also saw at the Senate, where certain individuals and senators also opposed this, but at the end of it all, they've seen that the majority of the members agree for that. Then the second leg to the issue is that, which probably I know you got to ask me next, is that does the president have the constitutional right to suspend an elected governor, deputy governor, or the state house of assembly? Absolutely no. There is nowhere in the Constitution that gives the president the power to be able to do that. The only constitutional provision for the removal of the deputy or governor is through impeachment, and that is only way. So any other thing that the president did concerning that, for me, is a breach of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended.
Well, I'd like us to look at the fact that could there have been other alternatives or other alternative solution, especially for the president? Many have said they should have picked up the phone, called the warring factions, sit them again, keep trying, like in quotes, call him the father of the nation. What's your take on this?
My personal opinion is that the president, in his broadcast, was so biased. He was biased. He was heaping all the blame of what happened in River State on the governor, Governor Sim Fubara. And for there to be a dispute, there must be two people. So the president never mentioned the role being played by the FCT minister, former governor of River State, Nyesom Wike, who is a gladiator in this fight. He didn't also put any kind of blame on the legislative part, who are also not living to expectation, despite the fact that, yes, Supreme Court, he tried everything humanly possible to be able to implement those basic three decisions that were taken by the Supreme Court. First and foremost, he made sure that the local government chairmen were removed as proclaimed by the Supreme Court. And he made attempts to also resubmit and present the budget, 2025 budget, to the State Houses of Assembly. First and foremost, the Assembly said no, that the letter did not, it was not signed by him. It was signed by the Secretary to the government. He again signed another one by himself and said, they said no, they didn't. The next thing they did was to sit and adjourn indefinitely. So he also made an attempt to assess the State Assembly to be able to meet with the lawmakers. I don't know whether he got the approval to come. But at the end of it, you want to realize that the governor in the Supreme Court, but it seems that the other warring party were not. And you heard what the FCT minister said, that if Barra is speech, that the heaven will not fall, and they cannot stop the legislator. That does not show somebody that's ready for peace. So those are the issues for me. That in itself was a kind of bias on the part of the president. I expect the president to have done more. Called his employee, quote and unquote. Yes, so they talked to him, and also they called the governor. Yes, I know that he had a meeting with them in the past, and that did not yield any fruit. But he could have gone further than this, rather just placing all the blames on the governor, who to me, I think, had his hand tied to the back and practically had nothing to do.
Well, what's your take on the sole administrator of the state currently?
Well, there cannot be a vacuum as far as the issue is concerned. If you remove the governor or you suspend the governor, you suspended the deputy, you suspended the House of Assembly. If you don't procure somebody to be able to take charge, then there's going to be problem. There are going to be chaos, there are going to be high level of insecurity and the rest of them. So the president did writing back, appointed. But ask me, I don't know in the Constitution whether there's anywhere in the Constitution where we had a provision for an administrator. And when you're talking of administrator, you're not talking of civilian administrator. Why is it that they're always speaking military people? Say, yes, I agree that it's a state of mind. Why do you have, whether you like it or not, Vice Admiral Iba is a former military man. He was the former chief of staff, chief of naval staff of Federation. He's a military man. So why are you picking up him? Why don't you get somebody? You need a sole administrator. Does it mean that you cannot get a civilian who can be neutral and who is neutral in all that is happening in River State and make sure that you're able to take care of issues as it's were? So why the military? Because we are trying to try as much as possible to try to draw ourselves away from the military. Let the military remain what they are. Let them remain in the area of taking care of the security of the country. So whether retired or unretired, we saw the last military head of state retired, Buhari. That was elected by Nigerians in 2015, and he was presided over the affairs of Nigeria for 8 years. I continue to say that Buhari remains the worst president Nigeria ever had. Go into the records and see the legacies he left behind. So the military are not the best of administrators. They can be good in providing security and the rest of them, but it's everything about security. I hope that the new administrator will be able to sit down and be able to look at, be able to harness the opportunity in River State and make sure that all the warring factions are brought together and make sure that there is stability in River State. But for me, I still say that appointing a retired general as an administrator in a civilian government, to me, is a no-no.
Well, let's discuss a little bit more on this. There seems to be a coalition that's coming of opposition political leaders. I mean, they've hinted at a possible merger ahead of 2027 elections. Do you see this come to reality, given that the level of divergence and also differences in political views are held by some of the names of the persons involved? You have a former vice president, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. You have a former member of the APC who has moved now to the SDP, and so on.
Well, for me, it's a constitutional right. They have the right to come together. They have the right to make. But I've not seen any level of seriousness on the part of the opposition party. The opposition party in Nigeria currently is completely dead. Let's start with the main opposition party, PDP. You saw the problem. You have seen the problem that is bedeviling the PDP. That just like Sachete said in his book, Things Fall Apart, it seems that the center cannot hold. So, which faction of there are two factions within the PDP, the Wike faction, the Atiku Abubakar faction. You go to the Labour Party, you have 3 people aspiring to the chairmanship of the party. You have the Apampa, you have the Abure, you have the former minister, what's her name? Nemadi, right? That's her name, Usman. That is then you go to the NPP. NPP, practically example, they're having problem. You come to even the so-called SDP that some of them have removed it. For the PDP and the APC did something strategic before pre-2015. They have tried to unseat PDP for a long time as a party. The CPC, ACN, name them, ANPP and the rest of them, individual and the couldn't. They came together and merged. You had the CPC, you had the ACN, you had the ANPP, and you had the NPDP. If you remember the NPDP, I'm sure you remember John, my brother, very well, that Hansen, in 2015, where you had the NPDP, where 5 governors of the PDP had to leave to join the coalition. What you ask yourself, this current coalition, who are the people coming together? Who are which of the political parties are, who are the gladiators? Do they have the personal way to be able to gather themselves together and merge as a people, or just a single individuals that put their head together? When I look at that table yesterday, apart from Atiku Abubakar, who else do you think that have the political cloud within that table that you saw yesterday that can be able to push, even within their own state, be able to push? Is it the former SGF from Adamawa that, I don't know, it doesn't have any political? Rufai, practically the political thing within the state have been taken over by the current governor. Or who again? The guy representing the Labour Party. So it is a big task. Except they can be able to come together and forge a very, very formidable alliance. If not, if they continue to go the way they are going, then you can see that by 2027, Bola Ahmed Tinubu might just have a smooth second term ride.
I want to say thank you so much, Mr. Chris Wadu, for joining us here on News Now. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, and do have a nice day.
All right. Well, we'll go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll take a look at the story concerning Natasha Akpoti-Odoguan. Of course, there are calls to indeed ensure that she leaves the National Assembly permanently. We'll talk about that story in a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back to News Now. A section of Ibera indigents in Kogi State have strongly condemned insinuations that the recall process against Senator Natasha Akpoti-Odoguan, who represents Kogi Central, does not enjoy the support of the majority of the electorate in the area. The indigents from across the 5 local governments of Kogi Central said they had resolved to bring the embattled senator back home, adding that the embarrassment she had caused the senatorial district had unfortunately taken an international dimension. This stand was taken in a statement on Thursday, jointly signed by the President and Secretary of the Kogi Central Elites Forum, Alhaji Ibrahim Abdulaziz Ibrahim, and Prince Akirijola Johnson of Ogori Magungo LGA.
She is a member representing Kogi Central Senatorial District.
You know, you've said you've not said anything to address the issues she's raised on sexual harassment.
Talking about sexual harassment, Natasha Akpoti-Odoguan is above 40 years. I find it very alarming that you are raising a sexual harassment issue without evidence. If she had brought evidence, trust me, the entire Kogites would have risen up to say no to Senator Akpabio's harassment. But you've been saying sexual harassment without basis. If you say you are being sexual harassed, what are the evidences and why is it now that she's bringing it up? She said it was a time some months ago, everything some months ago. If you are being sexual harassed, we, the entire Kogites, will rise up for her if she has evidence. We are asking, if you are being harassed and you have gone to international community to allege somebody of sexual harassment, it should be backed up with proof and evidence. We are not going to be driven by emotions, crying. It's not going to solve this. We are saying, give us evidence where Senator Godswill Akpabio, the Senate President, harassed you sexually. Natasha Akpoti-Odoguan is not a baby. She's an adult. And as such, she would have had evidences where the Senate President either sexual harassed her by writing or by anything. But now you're just saying he sexual harassed you. We have given now weeks to present to the entire Kogi Central Senatorial District people where the evidence is. But till now, no evidence. And we cannot...
The Ministers of Interior and Foreign Affairs have presented their performance scorecards, highlighting key achievements in security and diplomacy. Foreign Affairs Minister Yusuf Tugare underscored Nigeria's strengthened diplomatic ties, increased foreign investments and growing influence on the global stage. He assured citizens of the government's commitment to fostering international partnerships and ensuring regional stability. At the briefing, the Interior Minister outlined improvements in border security, immigration reforms and emergency response systems.
Focus on what we've been doing for Nigerians directly. And the most important thing that we've been doing, in my opinion, is redeeming Nigeria's image abroad. When I say redeeming Nigeria's image abroad, I'm talking about compensating for any faults that we may have projected. And I think we've succeeded in that thus far. But so the next stage is really to exalt and glorify Nigeria's image abroad. In terms of redemption, we now have a good image. I'm confident to say that. The dignity of Nigerian citizens in other countries. And by having a zero tolerance for the humiliation of Nigerians anywhere in the world. And it doesn't matter how high or how low. It can be Victor Osimhen trying to be rubbish or trying to be prejudiced towards, and it can be somebody who is lonely.
Let's go to court matters now. The Oyo State government has withdrawn the criminal case against Oriyomi Hamzat, Naomi Slikola and Fasasi Abdullahi Fasasi over the fatal stampede at Islamic High School, Bashorun, in December 2024. Oyo State Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice Abiodu Akomo confirmed the development while addressing journalists after the court ruling. The Ibadan High Court struck out the case following the Attorney General's decision to withdraw it. The three defendants had been on trial for the alleged roles in the tragic stampede at a fun fair in Ibadan, which claimed the lives of over 30 people, most of them children.
Everyone is all smiles right now, and we can.
Moving on, Lagos, Nigeria's economic hub, is home to nearly 20 million people, yet access to affordable housing remains a major challenge. Skyrocketing rents and exorbitant property prices are pushing residents to desperate measures. News Central's Sumaya Abubakar reports on the housing crisis in Lagos.
In Lagos, the dream of having a roof over one's head is fast becoming a luxury.
My landlord called me. He's not in Nigeria. He called me. He told me that the apartment that I am occupying that is going to be 1.5 million from 600,000.
A lawyer appeared from nowhere 3 weeks to the expiry of my rent, and is serving me a notice of increase in rent, and is both a notice of increase and a notice to quit. So it's you either pay or you quit.
2000, when I moved to this mainland, I called my sister and said, that I think I'll be able to buy a house here in the next 5 years. And I think this is the 5th year now I'm here. That dream has been totally dashed.
Real estate agents, often acting as middlemen, are accused of worsening the crisis.
The rent issue, housing issue in Lagos has become something that is more of a cartel between the agents, the lawyers, and the house owners.
You have to budget. The rent should be 3 million, and it's always 10% of your rent. The agents will take, if it's 3 million, the agent's gonna take 300,000 naira. Agreement should be 300,000. Caution will be 300,000.
While developers blame economic challenges, some landlords are accused of exploiting the housing shortage.
The effect began in late 2023. So since that time, we've had a big jump in prices of building materials, and we have been left with no option than to also increase the prices of the houses we sell.
I know of a very close friend that his house in this Bucknor, it's a 30-bedroom flat. It's not charging up to 800,000 naira. Whereas you go to another street very close to your home, a 2-bedroom flat goes for about 2.6 million. It's individual differences. People do what, therefore, because there's no control, everybody acts on his own. Nobody controls.
Everybody want to trip into real estate. They call real estate the best business. And now they are overpricing because of their greed. They want to make so much fast money. You want to build a house for 100 million and you want to sell it for 500 million.
Many helpless residents, unaware of their housing rights, are calling for urgent government intervention.
The courts have held that landlords cannot review rent unilaterally. It is something that must be agreed as between the landlord and the tenant. A landlord cannot just wake up. The same way they agreed initially as to the original rent, that is the same way they must agree as to the review of the rent.
The government should, in fact, what is this grammar they always use in the government setting? Declare a state of emergency on housing in Lagos State. It has gotten to that level.
The overpricing is leading to an increase in rent and is messing up. Our inflation at the moment is 80% artificial. And one of the costs is the overpricing that is going on in the real estate sector. And it has to be looked into.
Attempts to get response from government officials were unsuccessful.
The Lagos housing deficit is not just a statistics. It is a reality affecting millions. The cracks in the mega city is all too visible as every day Lagosians are left searching for shelter they can afford. Will real solutions come soon, or will this crisis worsen? Only time will tell. In Lagos, for News Central, Sumaya Abubakar.
Young people in Delta State, South Nigeria, have identified key challenges and opportunities in local manufacturing and innovation for made-in-Nigeria products as they are calling for policy regulatory support for local producers. This formed the crux at a one-day strategic focus meeting on locally made products organized by the National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure held in Asaba. News Central correspondent Austin Azu tells us more.
These are young people in Delta State, brought together by the National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure, an effort to support local content and indigenous industrialization, boosting innovation, employment, and the economy. The theme for the event, Made in Nigeria for Everyone, begins with the presentation of NACINIM mandates and objectives.
We're here to enhance local production. We're here to brainstorm on how to develop ourselves. From the theme, you see, we said, made in Nigeria for everyone. This is our country, we can't take it out from us.
There's so much jobs for us, and that jobs has helped us to bridge so much in the growth and economy of our lives. Secondly, we have noticed that there is this reduction in the dependencies for imported goods.
In their separate goodwill messages, the representatives of the Commissioners for Environment and Science and Technology reveal what Delta State is doing to encourage young people in technology and innovations.
Let me assure you all that valuable decisions that will be reached at this meeting will be supported by the Ministry of Environment in achieving the vision of this meeting.
The Ministry of Science and Technology recognizes that science, technology, and innovation are critical enablers of industrialization. That is why we remain committed to policies and initiatives that encourages research, development, and commercialization of homemade.
In an interactive focus group section, the youth brainstorm on the challenges and opportunities in local manufacturing and innovation, policy regulatory support for local producers, financing and investment for local growth, market access and industry leakages.
Yeah, one of the major problems facing young people in Nigeria is lack of power in terms of manufacturing. A lot of young Nigerians are faced with the challenge of power. And without power, you cannot actually produce goods and services. So it's a major problem.
Most of the issues we're having is majorly security, because people don't believe they can do something or produce something in a state that is not secured. But aside that, we do have other challenges that affect our creatives, which has to do with maybe, let's say, poor infrastructure, policy frameworks, and a few other things.
So one of the areas that Nazani could look is at developing capacity of creatives across Nigeria to be able to produce more and also to be able to compete in the international market.
NACINI, the Nigeria Export Promotion Council, and other stakeholders have been at the vanguard of promoting locally made products and reduce dependency on imports. In Asaba for News Central, Austin Azu.
Army troops have successfully recaptured the presidential palace from the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces after a fierce battle. A military source told newsmen that the army stormed the Republican palace, reclaiming control after defeating the remnants of the RSF. The paramilitary group had occupied the palace since April 2023. The recapture marks a significant development in the ongoing conflict between the Sudanese army and the RSF. South Africa is honoring Human Rights Day, a day dedicated to commemorating the sacrifices made in the pursuit of freedom and justice of the country. Events to commemorate this day are taking place across the country, but we'll turn our attention now to a particularly significant location at the Constitutional Hill, a site steeped in the history of a nation struggle. Well, let's join our reporter on the ground, Bongani Siziba, who is live at the Human Rights Festival. Bongani, thank you so much for joining me this moment. Can you tell us what's happening over there?
Constitutional Hill, a historic site that once held countless women prisoners during the apartheid era, and today it's transformed into a vibrant hub of remembrance and celebration, where South Africa honors the legacy of those who fought for the rights for this country, what South Africans enjoy today. And today, like you rightfully said, it's Human Rights Day here in South Africa, and the festival, Human Rights Festival, is in full swing to celebrate the hard-won freedom. But let me just bring in one of the organizers, or one of people who are here, Professor Salim Vali. Professor, good morning, and thank you so much for joining us. Today, South Africa, we are celebrating a day that is so important in the history of South Africa. Why is this day important, and what does Human Rights Day mean to you?
Well, today is very auspicious. It commemorates the Sharpeville massacre, 21st of March in 1960. We also call it Human Rights Day. We remember those who fought against apartheid. We remember the solidarity we as South Africans received from the entire world, particularly the people of Africa. And today we are dedicating this day for solidarity towards those who are suffering genocide, the Palestinians who are suffering war in Sudan, in the Congo, and we are saying that the struggle continues. So it is a day of remembrance, but it is also a day of solidarity with those who don't have the basic rights that we won.
But also I've seen pictures and 1,000 drums that are going to be drummed here rather. And also it's not only about South Africa, because I'm seeing pictures of Patrice Lumumba, DRC, Palestine. What does it mean for South Africa to celebrate this day, but also remember other people who are also suffering the human rights?
Yes, we are dedicating today to primarily the people suffering genocide, the Palestinians, but also the people of Africa who continue struggling against corruption, against inequality, and the plunder of our continent for minerals, for oil. So we are saying human rights is about people who have the decent things of life, people who have the basic necessities, people who have health care, who have education, and that is the significance of today.
Yeah, quite a significant day today. It's also a day that honors the legacy of Umamu Winnie Mandela, a woman that we know that fought for this country. And this festival here is not only to celebrate the past, but also a reminder of how the likes of the icon Winnie Mandela worked tirelessly to advocate for human rights. She also played a crucial role rather, to fight against apartheid, and today her spirit is much alive in the hearts of many South Africans, with so many stories dedicated to her. But today many South Africans came out just to commemorate this day and remember those who brought the freedom of South Africa. It's now back to you in the studio.
Thank you so much, Bongani Ziziba there. Let's move on now to another story. This time, let's go to Tanzania. The China Civil Engineering Construction Corporation will invest $1.4 billion to upgrade the Tanzania-Zambia Railway. Well, that story also helps us to see that this would help in enhancing a crucial route for copper exports from Central Africa. The investment includes $1 billion for rail track rehabilitation and the purchase of 32 new locomotives and 762 wagons. Tazara's CEO, Bruno Chingandu, highlighted a concession structure involving 3 years of construction and 27 years of operation. This move marks a significant boost in China's lending to Africa, following a cautious lending approach in recent years. In sports, Super Eagles head coach Eric Chile has affirmed his team's readiness ahead of the Friday's crucial match. That's the 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifier against Rwanda. The Malian tactician will lead Nigeria for the first time in a competitive match at the Amahoro Stadium, Kigali. With no wins in 4 qualifiers, the Super Eagles are desperate for victory. Chile emphasized hard work and discipline as key to success. Captain William Truce echoed the team's determination, saying they trust the coach's plan. We'll bring to you that video later on in our subsequent news bulletin, but let's tell you that match day 5 of the FIFA World Cup qualifiers saw thrilling encounters on Thursday, with teams battling for crucial points. In Group A, Sierra Leone moved to second place with a 3-1 victory over Guinea-Bissau. Goals from Mustafa Bundu, Musa Kamara and Ibrahim Traoré secured the win. In Group C, Zimbabwe staged a remarkable comeback to draw 2-2 with Benin Republic after trailing by 2 goals. Marshall Munetsi and Knowledge Musona rescued a point for the Warriors. Cape Verde edged Mauritius 1-0 in Group D thanks to Yannick Semedo's late strike. Meanwhile, Namibia secured a 1-0 away victory over Malawi in Group H, with Prince Tijueza's goal sealing the victory. And that's all the news for you this hour. But don't forget, before we go, let's remind you of the top stories. National Assembly approves state of emergency in River State as retired Vice Admiral Ibok Eteibas assumes office as administrator. Race for 2027 elections thickens as former Vice President Atiku Abubakar hints at historic political coalition. And the Sudanese army recaptures presidential palace from the RSF after fierce battle. Remember to send in your eyewitness reports to the WhatsApp number on the screen. And do follow us on all socials. We are at News Central TV. And you can watch us live on the following platforms right there on your screen: DSTV 422, GoTV Channel 23, Star Times 274, and stream live on YouTube, Avo TV, and of course on Facebook. My name is Joe Hansen. Stay with us, 10 a.m. The ladies are here and ready and set for Jasiri. Good morning.